Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Kovray, a couple that loves to play board games.
And we love to play and listen to music.
I love me some good music.
That's why today we're going to be doing a review of Ovation.
Bum ba da bum!
This is a new game coming to Kickstarter. It's designed by Kirsten Lunde and published by Looking Glass Workshop.
In this 1 to 4 player game, you'll take the role of a composer, attempting to become the most renowned across the world.
Are you up for the challenge? Let's give you a quick overview of how to play the game. As always, you'll begin by setting up. Each player receives a player board, each with a varied ability, a composer token, inspiration markers, and a music note. Chamber and concert music, patron, and fortune decks are shuffled and dealt out on the table along with tickets and Maestro cards. During each turn, players choose one of the 4 main actions: seek inspiration, seek fortune, seek patronage, or perform. Seek inspiration allows players to gain inspiration tones, which are essential for playing cards. Seek fortune involves spending inspiration to acquire fortune cards, which in turn enhance other actions. Seek patronage allows players to acquire legacy patron cards, which support final scoring, and financier patrons, which enhance the seek fortune action. Perform is the most exciting action, where players spend inspiration to perform chamber and concert music, earning music notes and granting other players the option to attend their performances. In addition to the main actions, players can utilize bonus actions provided by acquired fortune and patron cards. Bonus actions vary from gaining inspiration, completing additional main actions, and more, but require players to place a music note on the corresponding card to take the action after taking the main action. There are also free actions available, such as exchanging tickets for inspiration, refreshing cards by discarding a music note, or taking a Maestro card if the conditions are met. The game continues until only 2 Maestro cards remain. After everyone has taken equal turns, final scoring can begin. Legacy points on all the cards are tallied, with additional points awarded for any unspent tickets. You'll compare the scores, and the player with the most legacy points wins.
Bum 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 bum! Bum 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 bum!
What were your first impressions of Ovation?
Wow, that was my first impression.
Did you give it a standing ovation?
I think I'd give this one a standing ovation.
Ooh.
It's got engine building, it's got resource management, it's got like a race to the finish kind of feel to it, and I think those are a lot of the things that I look for, particularly when it comes to engine building games, so I quite enjoyed our playthrough with this.
Me too. We've had the chance to play a 2, a 3, and overall it just gives it feels like a really well-rounded experience. There's a lot of elements I love from other games, but it also feels very unique as well in its own way. So yeah.
Speaking of other games though, let's talk about some comparables. So if you're interested in these games that we're about to talk about, you might be interested in checking out Ovation.
Well, my comparable for this game is Wingspan. I feel like it's a bold comparable, but the reason I am comparing it to that game is because in Wingspan, you start out quite slow. You take those actions, but as you acquire birds, you can do more in each of the actions. And this game feels really similar. You start out with the 4 core actions, but then as you acquire the fortune and patronage cards, you can do more within each of the actions if you have the music notes. So your engine in the game grows, and it feels very similar in that sense, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah, I feel like that pinpoints a lot of like what engine builders do, and even to the point of Wingspan, it's nice to be able to easily follow along on your player boards with what you're doing in Ovation. So I think that's a great comparable.
Left to right, up to top to bottom.
Yes. My comparable kind of touches more on the resource management goal seek thing, and that is Parks. In Parks, you're collecting a lot of resources by taking specific actions, moving along the exact same track as everybody else, but you've got to strategically do it because you want to make sure you're able to get the right resources to complete the goals that everybody almost has accessible to them, which is exactly what's going on in Ovation. In Parks, there's a way to reserve the cards, so there is a way to kind of like sneak and grab the ones that you are almost close to getting, but not quite there. Ovation doesn't have that, which I think can make the game a bit more exciting, but that would be my comparable.
Amazing. Now, what are some of the reasons why people should check out Ovation?
Well, we already mentioned this before, but it's an engine builder. So the nice thing about any engine builder, in my opinion, is that when you start learning and playing the game, it's a slow start that gradually gets faster and faster, or I guess more intense as you progress through the game. The fun part about that is you can kind of lean into a strategy at the very beginning, hope the cards that you want come up, and then build your engine off of that, slowly making your strategy more and more elaborate as you move through the game. And it provides like an ease of access into the board game when you're initially starting out.
I feel like the goals for the game really drive what everybody will be
Yes.
doing. And then you see that in the game as well. Like everyone's going for the violins all of a sudden and trying to play that concerto and be really in that kind of realm where maybe you can take a different approach and focus on the goals that everybody else is not focusing at and kind of see as that game progresses. So all that is to say is the strategy of this game is quite fun because there's a lot of different routes that you can take. You're getting the points from the cards, from the performances that you're playing, from maybe the tickets that you have left over. So there's a lot of variety that you can pivot your strategy to build up yourself as the best classical composer.
Yeah, not even to that point of like, I mean, to the point of everything gets you points, but also like it means that every time you take an action, it's like relatively meaningful because it will add to your end game scoring. There are some cards that are like valued at 0 points, but those often will give you an advantage or a bigger advantage when you'll be able to use those moves, slot in another engine piece or something along those lines. So there are a lot of ways that the 0 point cards make up for it. And then on top of that, like I just said, is you're gaining points from literally everything you collect during the game. So it feels very rewarding and you're not necessarily missing out on the opportunity to score or catch up. Yeah.
Tyler loves going for the legacy patrons.
I do.
Who give you points for some things but lose you points for other things because they have a specific taste. But when you have so many of them and you cater your music just right, you can score quite a lot of points.
Yes, yeah, because you end up not losing any points whatsoever if you don't collect any of those negative signs. I mean, it can be pretty tough sometimes, but it's very rewarding when it pays off.
I think the last point I'll say for reasons you should check it out is the theme. I feel like lately there's been more and more games in that whole music genre. But as someone who was in high school band, who plays piano, guitar, saxophone, and just loves instruments, this was just magic to my heart. Even the fact that you're seeking inspirations and a lot of your resource markers are like joy or sorrow.
Yeah.
I need to go find some sorrow so I can play the best violin performance. And I think that's just, it just carries throughout the whole game in a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of fun thematic touches throughout that it's a reason for me alone to play this game.
Yeah, and it's in just like a simple way too that really ties it all together. The fact that they have got like 6 different characters that you can pick from, all of which are, I believe,
rooted in history.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really exciting to see. And then they have like asymmetrical abilities, which really go into, I guess, like the replayability of the game, but also just the excitement of being able to play a different character and almost vibe with them and instead of the other characters.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are some of the reasons that we would recommend you checking out the game. Of course, now let's talk about why you might not want to check this game out.
Well, this game has a shared pool of things you can draft and perform and take and get more of. Because of that, everyone may be having the same thoughts as you. I really want that card and this card. So you're sitting there, you're planning along, and all your cards get taken, and you have to consistently revise that strategy, which some people may not like. They want their own little pool and their own little section to work in. This is a game of a lot of adaptability, and your things will be taken on a really regular basis. So if you are someone who does not enjoy that, maybe this game is not for you.
And just like to add to that a little bit, there's no way to actually like reserve a card. So you can't like plan to play it later, which I think is like actually super good in this game. I don't think it needs that. I really appreciate it, but it can be frustrating. That is just my opinion about that. The other point that I would say is that you're building an engine, and because you're grabbing all of these cards and other people are able to grab the cards that you're grabbing, you don't always get the cards that are right for your engine, and it can feel kind of disappointing, especially at the start when you think you have a plan or you're trying to build towards those end game goals or race goals, I suppose they are. You can't just get it going, so you've got to be able to, like Ilya said, adapt to it. And if that's something that you aren't too keen on, then I wouldn't recommend checking Ovation out.
And the last point that I'll say is some of the action tracking. As you get later in the game, you kind of have to plan out everything you're going to do, and you have a lot of options with your many music notes potentially as well. So as you're doing that, it's potentially easy to lose track of where you wanted to go or forget what you wanted to do. Sometimes it also takes longer, so everybody else is waiting for you to kind of figure out what you're trying to do. So if you don't enjoy those types of moments, then this game may not be for you as well.
Yeah, there might, particularly in the first couple of plays, be a bit of downtime between each player's turn as those individuals try and figure out the engine that they want to follow or the path that they want to take. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on when you are playing this game. There are nodes that add to the value of incorporating everybody around the table, but like we just said, it can be something that is not necessarily everybody's cup of tea.
But overall, what do we think?
I quite enjoy this game. The theme obviously is something that initially attracted me to this game. I think the engine building and resource management is another thing that immediately makes me gravitate towards this game. But this smooth play with also this limited player interaction, in a sense of you're just going to take the cards that you think are the most valuable for yourself, makes that take that still kind of there, but also not intentionally trying to king make anybody or ruin anybody else's experience. I think it's all in your own motivation to move forward, which makes the game a lot of fun, and I have thoroughly enjoyed playing this.
I also really enjoyed this game. It also plays fairly quickly too. So if you're looking to get that whole engine experience out in about less than an hour, and then this might be the game for you. And the one last thing I forgot to mention is I love the fact that you can go to other people's concerts that are sitting beside you on the left and the right. Because it's really fun because they put on a show and you're like, I need to seek some inspiration, and you get some inspiration from their performances, which again, there's just so many of these thematic touches that I love so much. But overall, adore this game.
Yep, been very fun to play. Excited to see what happens with this one and follow along with their Kickstarter.
Exactly. Speaking of, make sure to check out that Kickstarter. Hit that link down below. We'll link it. If you want to learn more about the game, there should be more in the description that you can figure out. And if you enjoyed this video,
give us that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're new here. We make a weekly board game content and love talking about all sorts of games.
Now, for our question of the day, what is your earliest music thoughts or experience? Is there a song that you really remember as a kid that you played a lot? Yeah.
I don't think I have an early thing. My parents put me in music for young children when I was 4 years old. So I remember going over to my teacher's house with a bunch of different kids. Well, the same kids every time. But we would go down into the basement and there was 5 different keyboards around, and we'd all get to play our scales, learn how to read notes, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
My parents, I was raised in Russia, but the English music side obviously carries over. And I remember my parents had many ABBA CDs.
Yes.
And they would just play them.
We love ABBA.
So it was wonderful.
If you take your time.
Well, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye!